Hello and welcome to the Snowboard Instructor Podcast. On this episode we have Malcolm Moore. He is a BASI Level 4 ISTD and works at Masterclass Snowboarding in Alpes D'Huez. We talk about his journey into snowboarding and how his YouTube channel has grown. Alongside this we have a sponsor for this episode. Watch and Ride is an online snowboarding school which focuses on improving your ability no matter what level you are. With loads of quick tutorials and feedback from high-level instructors, you're bound to improve not just your technical ability, but also your knowledge. They also have a fitness program to help maintain your fitness for next season of shredding. As we all know, lockdown has made us a bit lazy. Visit Watch and Ride and use the coupon code Snowboard Instructor Podcast for 25% off your order. We hope you enjoy this episode and have a great day. Yeah, thanks for joining us, Malcolm. It's been super good to have you on, especially kind of a last minute kind of text. We've got this all sorted via Zoom comfortably. Malcolm's currently living in Alpes D'Huez. We're at our lovely home in Tamworth. And it's been super fun. How you doing anyway, Malcolm?
Yeah, I'm good. Glad to be here. Not a lot going on. Like everyone's stuck in lockdown.
Yeah.
So, plenty of free time at the moment. Just waiting for the ski resorts to open at some point, which we're not sure when that's going to be yet, but hopefully not too long.
Aren't we all? And it's so annoying as well seeing people already snowboarding and skiing out there, and you're just like on Instagram or Facebook, and you're just getting slightly jealous over all their videos and photos.
Like all in Switzerland at the moment. Everyone's
because
Switzerland's
I'm
open.
literally thinking about like sneaking over the border and getting into Switzerland,
and then just thought it always
yeah.
Great, yeah. So essentially, Malcolm is known as your level 4 as BASI instructor, is it?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I got my BASI level 4.
Also owns his own little school, which is called.
So yeah, I work within a ski school called Masterclass, but basically they're just a ski school. So I kind of approached them, and I now run the snowboard side of things. And I kind of have the autonomy to do what I want there. And it was actually slightly easier to go in kind of under the umbrella of another ski school rather than just set myself up completely privately, even though that is effectively what I'm doing. But yeah, so yeah, I might not necessarily have chosen the name Masterclass, but yeah, that's who I work for. And
you're just like, just deal with it.
Yeah, great. And of course is known as well for his YouTube channel as well, Malcolm Moore, with various videos. I've been really enjoying those videos lately, mate. They've been super fun to kind of
it's been cool. I mean, it's something that was just new last year. It was a guy I was teaching actually, and he was like, "Oh, do you watch like Ryan Napton and Snowboard Pro Camp?" And I was like, "Nah." And like, the only time I would ever go onto YouTube is like if I had a DIY fix I couldn't do or something like that. Like changing the headlamps on your car or something like that. And then he kind of mentioned it. It wasn't for a few weeks after I started kind of taking a bit of a dive into YouTube, and I didn't realise like these snowboarders would have so many like subscribers and stuff like this, and kind of actually like making money off YouTube, but also like just promoting themselves really well. So when it came around to the following season, I was like, I should try and start up my own channel. And I used to be well into skateboarding. That's kind of how I got into snowboarding in the beginning. I always used to make skateboard videos and stuff, so I kind of knew a little bit about editing videos and whatnot. And then it's like so much simpler now. I used to have this like giant camera. You put your mini DV tapes in, and like a fire wire to get that on your computer and everything. Whereas now it's just like you get your GoPro, memory card, simple.
Even just a phone. Like nowadays, you can just grab your phone,
exactly.
And you can simple as that.
Yeah, it's super fun. Just and super easier now, isn't it? I remember when I used to go to college, it was like we would either have, because they had old stuff anyway, we would actually just use VHS or mini DV tapes as well.
Yeah.
So we just had to deal with those, and they were, it was super fun kind of using that old kind of style. But yeah, it was good. So my first question really, Malcolm, is just kind of want to talk about what's made you want to start off snowboarding from that first lesson to that kind of first trip, essentially.
Yeah, so like as I say, I used to skateboard, I'd say there's kind of two main things that sort of pulled me towards snowboarding. One was, definitely I love skateboarding, board sports, that kind of culture, but also traveling. I've always loved traveling around. I'm always like looking at maps and stuff and, wanting to go here and there. And so, through skateboarding, I had like a bit of an opportunity to travel. We used to do like trips around Europe, like skating in like Berlin and Amsterdam and like Stockholm, Malmo, like all these cities and stuff. And I absolutely loved that. And then like, as I started sort of getting older, there wasn't really like, unless you kind of turn pro in skateboarding, which definitely wasn't going to happen, there wasn't really like a legit sort of avenue you could go down and, get a job from it or anything, which wasn't necessarily the main thing I was looking for, but I didn't want to just sort of turn into a skate bum, essentially. So I finished school and I was in this place where I took like a year out, but I wasn't really sure what I was going to be doing, whether I was going to university or what. And then because I'm from really near Hemel Hempstead, like the snow dome was there, I was like, I'll just try like a snowboard lesson and see how this is. I booked one of these like snowboard in a day things, like these, it's like a 6 or 8 hour lesson or something. And like I got it all right. I remember though, like the guy teaching me, he was trying to get me to turn. And at the time I was like, I am turning. But I was just like, when you're teaching people and they're just spinning around in a circle, like one way. I was literally just going down the slope, like spinning around like constantly the whole way in the one direction, thinking I was like absolutely got the hang of this completely. So luckily I figured that out at the end. But yeah, I did this first day and loved it. And I was chatting to some of the instructors and stuff. And I was like, what are your plans? Like, and one of them was like, oh, I'm going away to Bulgaria this season and I'm going to like become an instructor and then I can, go off around the world and stuff. And it was from there that I started looking into that. So he was going off with Ash Nunes, snowboard coach who you had on here, who at the time, he ran these programs in Bulgaria. And I started looking into that, started chatting to him a bit. And I figured that, by the following winter, I wanted to get myself to the level to go on that. So I needed to get my level 1, which I could do in Hemel Hempstead. And then, the following winter, go out and do that. So, so that summer, I did my level 1, did my shadowing hours and like a little bit of work at Hemel. And then I actually won a holiday to Chamonix, like right at the end of the season through like Swiss Air. I don't even know how. But anyway, I ended up getting this like week snowboarding. It was in like April in Cham, but the snow was all right and stuff. So that was my first like on the mountain experience. And I was so pants. I think I thought I was like so good as well. I was like, oh yeah, I'm an instructor, man. I was like, I saw some old photos of me and like, I don't know like what I'm wearing, how I'm standing on board or anything. But yeah, absolutely loved like being up in the mountains and it was so cool. And then I was ready for the next winter. Went out to Bulgaria and that's when I did my level 2 course with Ash. And that was like the beginning of it really. So no, that was cool. And but again, like come sort of looking back at that time, again, I thought I was like the best snowboarder in the world. And I was probably a right pain in Ash's butt. Probably hated me.
I think when you finish your level 2 or even the level 1, you sort of have that bit of a complex. You're like, oh yeah, I can just pass my level 2. I'm ready to.
Yeah. But the great thing about that is it does then open you up this like door to go to all these other countries. So like right away, I was sort of hooked. I was like, right, seasons, that's what I do. And I was like, I don't even want to wait until next winter. So I got my my New Zealand working holiday visa. I was like, right, I'm going to go down there. I'm going to get a job. And I applied to all the resorts and stuff, but they're like, no, you've got 0 on mountain teaching experience. You're not getting a job. But I booked flights anyway. And I went to Wanaka. So you've got a couple of resorts there. You've got like Cardrona, Treble Cone, and you used to have a snow park there as well. And I managed to get like a job in a coffee shop when I first arrived. So I was like, right, if I don't get a teaching job, at least I've got something coming in. Which, like, again, I was terrible at that job. They're so into their coffees in New Zealand. I worked in like a Costa in the UK, and you just like bosh them out. And I got to New Zealand, I was like, yeah, I can do this. And the guy like was not happy with my barista skills. But it turned out being all right because basically Treble Cone, they did this thing called the hiring clinic. So like any like instructors hanging around in town at the beginning of the season, I think there was like 30 of us, and they're like, right, we've got 5 jobs, and it's almost like taking like a BASI level 1 or a level 2 exam. You're kind of showing off your teaching, showing off your riding, and then at the end they pick 5 of us, and luckily I was able to get one of those slots. And then I was able to quit my coffee shop job, which probably would have got fired from otherwise anyway, because I was always turning up hungover as well. And then started teaching at Treble Cone, which was awesome. Like the team there is so cool because, you know, they're from all over the world, like Swiss, Austrian, German, French, Canadian. And like the vibe down in New Zealand is so like electric because it's like the bonus season. You're not necessarily like, it's not a given. You know, most people have to wait for the winter to come around. You go through summer and everything. But everyone down there is like so excited that they've got this like extra season in. And even if the conditions are pants, like everyone's so up for it. Like there's like 1 inch of snow, like the Kiwis are like hucking it off the biggest rocks and everything. They're like, oh yeah, it's like a bottomless powder day. I'm like, this is not a powder day. What's going on? But, yeah, it's so cool. And it's so good for your riding because you are riding like pretty crappy, icy, wind-blown conditions most of the time. And yeah, it definitely develops you into a better rider. And just being in a ski school with, you know, much higher qualified riders around me as well, definitely helped me. And that kind of then started showing me that, you know, level 2 isn't you know, there's a whole nother sort of world above that.
Yeah.
Start to progress into as well. So yeah, it really kind of opened my eyes to the world of snowboarding.
So was that when you were kind of really thinking about, I could kind of go a bit further than just my level 2. I could kind of go and do this and that. And then did you really kind of start researching then what you, those kind of higher qualifications?
Yeah, I kind of did. I was definitely aware of like where I could take it, but also at the same time, I was just so excited about like where I could also just go with a level 2 as well. Like, okay, what countries can I work in? This will get me a visa for this country, that country. So although I was like, yeah, sure, one day I'll finish off my qualifications, it wasn't like so immediate. I was quite sort of happy at that level and just snowboarding and traveling around. So then, yeah, straight after New Zealand, I got my Canadian visa and got a job in British Columbia in Canada. And going from the snow in New Zealand to the snow in Canada was insane. Like I couldn't believe it. And like still to this day, so that was the only season I've done in Canada. Like the amount of snow they get and like how good it is just like incredible. It's just consistently cold, snows so much, the snow's so light and fluffy. I remember one day when this was like the 1 week, it hadn't snowed for like a week and it got quite warm. And then like the base layer turned to ice. And it literally snowed like 80 centimeters of the lightest snow. But it still felt like you were riding the ice because the snow was so light, you just went right through to that icy layer underneath. Whereas like in Europe, if it snows like more than 30 centimeters, you're not going through more than that 30 centimeters. You're not going to hit anything underneath there because the snow just, well, very rarely is that light. So I'd love to go back there and kind of like experience that snow again because I'm sure you get it in Japan and other places, but
yeah, I heard a lot about Japan.
Which resort was that? Was that
So it was a place called Sun Peaks, which it's kind of like billed as a family resort, and it's definitely not got many like serious like couloirs or anything like that. It's relatively like tame resort, but it is pretty big, and there is a lot of it's a big area and there's loads you can do there. And like back then I was just like mega into freestyle and stuff as well, so we were just constantly building like powder kickers and trying to work out how to do backflips and stuff like that. And yeah, it's good fun.
That's good. And then where did you kind of go from after that Canadian season?
So yeah, after there, like luckily must have done an okay enough job that the ski school in New Zealand were happy to sponsor me for a visa to come back. So I went straight back to New Zealand back there, and there was a lot of the same guys going back as well. So that was a really cool team. And it was on this season actually that I kind of started thinking, right, I should probably start working through my levels, because I actually struggled a bit in Canada. I was teaching so much, but the pay there wasn't the best. You're pretty much on like minimum wage even when you're teaching. So I ended up getting another job in a restaurant as well, which was paying me like the same money as my teaching wage. And because I was just working so much, I wasn't getting as much time as I'd have liked to sort of be riding for myself and progressing. It was pretty much like you got the very, very first lift in the morning, and you would like blast around for 45 minutes, and then you'd be in the lineup, like ready to take out, all your kids, teaching them to snowboard. So yeah, I was like, when I got back to New Zealand, I started speaking to the European guys a bit more, and obviously they all needed at least the level 3 or their country's equivalent to work in Europe. So I was like, right, this is what I'm going to do. And so I can practice for that, I thought I'd try and get a bar job in France. I'd met like various people that worked in bars in France and stuff, and they're like, yeah, it's the best job. You work in the evenings, you get to ride all day, you get free booze. So yeah, that sounded like a winner. So then I think I emailed pretty much every like English bar in France. I had about like 4 of them get back to me. And then one of them was an Alpes D'Huez bar called Smithy's, and it just sounded like the best deal. The owner was like really into skiing as well, and this bar didn't open in the days at all. It's like quite a few of them. I remember like Saloon Bar or Loop Bar or something in Teen. They were like, oh, you have to do lunch shifts as well. Whereas this one in Alpes D'Huez was just like, nah, just evenings. So I ended up taking the job there. And then with all the plans of snowboarding every day and training, but obviously the combination of being behind a bar and having as much free booze as you want, I kind of got sucked in a little bit to the party lifestyle as well, which I don't regret. Like, I absolutely loved it. I had like some of the best times. So I ended up doing this for about another 3 seasons. So yeah, that was how much I liked it. But it's it's difficult when you work until 2 a.m. every morning, and then after work you're going to the clubs and stuff. You'd still got on the hill, but a bit bleary-eyed at midday. You're not really able to push yourself and do the training.
No.
And also, Alpes D'Huez isn't like, it's not really renowned for snowboarding. So I know a lot of resorts you can go to, and there'll be other instructors and stuff you could speak to. There's literally no like BASI instructors here, and the snowboard instructors here are very much just French ski instructors that sometimes get handed a snowboard. So there was no one really to kind of guide me or anything like that. And yeah, so whenever I was riding as well, I was pretty much like with people that weren't that fussed about it, or if I was going sort of off piste and stuff like that, it was all with skiers. So I kind of like lost my track a little bit. And then this kind of got compounded when on one of my seasons in Alpes D'Huez, towards the end of the season, I was riding off piste. So with the owner of Smithy's, actually, that was who I'd kind of usually ride with. So he's a much older guy, and been here for years. And I put a lot of my sort of trust in him as well. I wouldn't really make my own decisions for going off piste. And I set off quite a big avalanche, and got caught in that. And it was pretty scary. And it just, the route we picked essentially was, it had a small section where you were quite exposed. You had to traverse over these cliffs. And as I was doing this traverse, I set off the slide, and there was no way out. And basically I was going to go off these cliffs. So it picked me up, started sweeping me down, and I'm in a bit of a panic. Obviously, you kind of know what you're supposed to try and do in things, but all those thoughts go out the window. So I had an ABS bag on, so I pulled that, which kept me afloat on the surface, but there was no like route to ride out at all. I was trying to like dig my edge into the snow underneath and see if that could kind of stop me in my tracks, but it just wasn't going to happen. And I didn't really know how big this cliff below me was, but I like shot off it and just started like falling. And the weird thing was though, because all the moving snow, as the snow shot off the cliff, so much of it became airborne. It's this giant like snow cloud that shoots off, like what you see in the videos. But obviously if I'm inside that falling through, for me it was totally pitch black, and like I couldn't see a thing, and I was literally just spinning around, flipping in the air. But because I couldn't see anything, I had no idea where I was going to land or anything. And I ended up like crashing onto my back at the bottom, and luckily I shot out over the cliffs and landed back in the snow. But it's still, I've gone back to it. It was about an 80-meter fall, so a very big fall straight onto my back, and I like instantly felt my back just basically almost like turn a right angle. It felt like, and I straight away like knew I'd broken my back, and my shoulder was popped out as well. I was pretty mangled, and the avalanche was still going as well, but luckily my sort of head was out. I could still breathe. And then eventually a sort of big snow cloud kind of dissipated and I could see the sky. And it was weird because it's definitely not the most scary thing that's ever happened. But as soon as it kind of all stopped, I felt fine. And even though I knew my back was broken, I straight away could move my feet and stuff. I was like, okay, like it's going to be all right. And my main concern there was for my mates I was riding with, who obviously just watched me just get swept off. And I was like, they're going to be pretty worried about me. And it took them a little while, actually, like a few minutes to make this traverse as well and to come back round to see me. So I was just kind of shouting at them like, I'm all right. And then when they got to me, I was like, well, I'm not all right. You need to call a helicopter. I'm pretty broken. So that was, towards the end of one of my season. And then after that, I ended up spending a month in Grenoble Hospital, had a couple of surgeries, and they ended up basically putting these 2 big metal rods down the back of my spine, which fused together 5 of my vertebrae. And the idea is that this would kind of act as a bit of an internal cast that would allow my broken bones in my spine. So it was my L1 and my L2 were kind of smashed into a few pieces. It would sort of isolate them and not put any pressure on them and allow them to heal. And they said it's going to be a kind of minimum 2-year recovery before these bones heal. And then we can, in the future, take these metal rods out. So after that happened, and I did get out of hospital, I had to sort of move back to my parents. Couldn't really do much work. Obviously, New Zealand was off the cards for that summer. So that summer was just kind of about getting stronger and getting better. And I was able to then get back to France for the next season and kind of very gingerly got back into snowboarding. But I was miles away from taking my level 3 exams, which had been the plan actually for that season that I got avalanched. That I was going to go to, I think it was in Hintertux, I was supposed to go to at the end of the season. And then I got avalanched literally about 2 weeks before I was going to go. I've been doing all this training to get ready for that. And then, that obviously stopped that plan completely. But then, so back in France the next season, December, I was barely snowboarding. But January, it felt quite weird because obviously my back had lost quite a lot of mobility. But luckily, snowboarding, generally, your back is reasonably straight. So it didn't actually affect it too much. And then I was really focused on it and getting stronger. And I was able to go out to Hintertux that season and take my level 3 exams.
With half broken back.
Luckily passed it then as well. Wow. Yeah. So I didn't actually tell the trainers until I didn't want to kind of milk it or anything. But I remember on the last day, I think we were doing the sort of freestyle criteria. And I tried to do a method, which I hadn't actually done since I broke my back. And obviously that kind of contorts your body a little bit.
Yeah.
I did quite a nice method. And then literally as I tweaked it out, I just felt my back got this sudden pain. It was so bad. And I landed it and I was just lying on the floor on the other side. And one of the trainers, Ben Kinnear, came over. He was like, what happened? I thought you landed it. I was like, I did. No. Then I basically told him the whole story and he was like, no way. I don't believe that's, you've got that going on in your back and stuff. But luckily that was the final hour of the last day. So I'd done enough before that. And and I mentioned earlier I won a holiday to Chamonix a few years before. So how I paid for my level 3 as well, because I kind of paid for it the year before and then wasn't able to go. There was another competition I found in that summer. I've got quite a good knack at winning competitions, and it was actually Nurofen were doing this competition, and it was like it had been written for me. It was like, what do you want to do in your life, but pain is stopping you? And so I wrote to Nurofen. I was like, well, I want to be a snowboard instructor, but I broke my back. And they were kind of like, okay, can you kind of pretend that Nurofen is helping you to achieve your goal? And I was on
yeah,
and stuff I broke my back, but I take 2 Nurofen a day and I'm able to go snowboarding again. And basically they I think they gave me $2.5 to they got me out there, pay for my hotel, pay for all the course fees and everything, which was awesome.
That is such a good kind of blessing in disguise. That's great.
Yeah. So got my level 3. And then it was after that, I was able to go back to New Zealand as well because I'd missed the summer there, and that was so cool as well. Like going back out and getting back into teaching and stuff. And I had like after all this happened, I had such a focus now to kind of carry on with my instructing. But then it was when I returned back to France for the next season, this season with the plan of now kind of doing everything for my level 4, that the doctors had said it was basically going to be a 2-year recovery for my back. And even though the previous season I was all right, these rods that they put in my spine, because of all the movement and sport and stuff I had been doing, had basically started to get really bent. And then this next season, it got to the point where I literally couldn't snowboard at all, couldn't really do anything. I was struggling to work behind the bar and stuff. And then it really made it impossible for me to do much until I was able to have my next operation, which would remove these rods from my spine. And then that's when I kind of fell back into just, partying and like a load and not getting up the hill or anything. And this is when I was actually taking loads of painkillers and stuff, not Nurofen, but it's pretty easy to get prescribed tramadol in France. And I'd just be like taking loads of tramadol to get through work and drinking Chartreuse and stuff to kind of numb the pain, which is definitely not the best medicine. So yeah, then I had to cancel any level 4 plans I had for that season. And then I kind of like lost the love for snowboarding a little bit just because I just couldn't do it. And I wasn't anywhere near the level I used to be. And yeah, it made it quite difficult. So I still love being in the mountains and everything. And then like an opportunity came up to run a bar with a few mates and my girlfriend. So that just kind of seemed like the perfect timing. So that became the focus. We ran that in the summer, and then in next winter we ran this bar. And
what was it called?
That just took. What's that? Sorry.
What was it called? The bar.
It's called Sphere Bar. So it was a small bar in Alpes D'Huez, but it was right underneath the Crystal Chalet. So we got all the Crystal guests, and like it was like the Crystal Seasonaires bar. But then because of that, like we just get all the Seasonaires in and stuff. And it was a really cool party bar. But I mean, it's pretty difficult to get yourself up snowboarding if literally like 6 nights a week you're promoting a party. We'd have live bands, DJs on every night, and if you're behind the bar and you're not getting involved, you're not a very good barman. You're not running it very well. So obviously you join the party every night. It was amazing. I loved it, and it was good money as well. But I couldn't. I mean, part of it was that I couldn't really snowboard. But even if I could have snowboarded that season, I just wasn't getting up the mountain at all. And then it really only actually lasted for 1 year because we never owned the bar. We just rented it from a landlord. And he basically decided that his daughter was now going to run the bar in the future. And we only ever had it on like a yearly rolling contract. So that was the end of that. And I was like, right, well, I should probably get back into snowboarding. My operation was due to remove the rods from my spine. So that kind of all timed out pretty well. So that summer, my second operation, took these rods out my spine. I've still got like a little bit of metalwork in there that's going to stay in there permanently. But ever since that second operation, once I'd recovered from, the actual surgery, obviously they're cutting through my back quite a bit. But once all the muscles and the skin had healed, I've been like, it's like back to 100% basically. So then, like next winter back in France. So basically Alpes D'Huez kind of became my home quite quickly. So by now I've done like 6 seasons in Alpes D'Huez or something up to this point. And then it was on like season 6. I was able to work in the bar, but get enough time off to do my level 4 exams, so like my mountain safety, go off competing the border cross events to get the FIS points. And then, got that done in that season, and everything ticked off. And then from there I was like, all right, back to instructing. I'm getting older now. By that point I was 27. So, it was kind of difficult for me to get drunk and ride off a hangover. They kind of seemed to consume me for a few days, and just try and have the curtain shut and whatnot. So although it took me a very long time to get from my level 2 to my level 4, I finally reached it, and that's when I started working with Masterclass, this ski school in Alpes D'Huez, and I was basically allowed to do the snowboard side of things. So that was 3 years ago now, and yeah, just been building on that ever since. I'm the only BASI snowboarder here, and although it's definitely not renowned as a kind of snowboarders resort in Alpes D'Huez, it's really cool. And yeah, there's definitely not. You couldn't have 10 snowboard instructors here. You'd all be fighting for the lessons. And it was that that's actually kind of inspired me to start my YouTube channel up to try and market myself a bit better, basically, because my first 2 seasons, it was like, okay, people would be like, right, I want to go snowboarding. Okay, where are we going to go? Oh, we might go to Alpes D'Huez. All right, we're going to Alpes D'Huez. And then they'd start looking at snowboard instructors, and that's where they might find me. So I was like, the 5th step or whatever in their holiday plans. So I was like, right, if I can start a snowboard channel and people start to know who I am, they could be like, right, I want lessons with this guy. So we'll go to Alpes D'Huez for him, rather than me being the bottom step. I could become the first step. So that started last year, and I didn't really know what to expect. My goal was, if in 1 year I can get up to 1,000 subscribers, I thought that'd be really cool. I've been watching all these videos on like how long it takes to get your subscribers and stuff like that, and I didn't really know what videos would work and what wouldn't. So my idea was it would mostly be like snowboard tutorials. That's obviously what I'm good at. I've got my level 4. I've spent all these years getting to this level, so hopefully I've got some snowboarding knowledge which I can give to people. So it's mostly that, but then you throw in gear reviews and stuff like that, and some head cam runs and stuff, and it just started growing like quite well. So this was last year I set it up, and now, well, normally going into this winter if COVID allows us, but yeah, I'm up to, I think it's like to 17,000 subscribers now. And just through doing that, like the amount of emails I get for booking requests and stuff is like tenfold what I was getting last year. So it's been a really good way to market myself more than anything.
And it's definitely helped the ski school as well. Alongside that, I'm guessing they've had like a massive kind of demand as well for, of course, with you, but just snowboarding in general.
Yeah, it's going to help there. It's the ski school I work for is quite funny. Masterclass is these 2 guys that have been in Alpes D'Huez for probably close to like 50 years or something. Like one of them a little bit less, but one of them, he's in his 80s now, and he's been here for years and years. So to be honest with you, I'm not really sure if they know what the YouTube channel I do is all about.
I think they're just sort of rolling along with it, and they just probably hear it once or twice.
Yeah, but it's quite funny because my first season, definitely most of my bookings were like, they would have a family of skiers, and maybe like the son or the daughter, or one of them wanted to try snowboarding, so I'd get that lesson. Whereas now, like, I'm getting loads of people coming to me, or maybe their partner skis or something like that, and they, so then I throw the ski lessons back that way. But I really love making the videos. It's so different. Like, teaching a lesson on video is so different to teaching someone in person. Because obviously, if you're teaching someone in real life, you watch a ride and you see what they work on, and it's kind of obvious. Whereas when you're teaching on video, you kind of have to start off with a goal, but you're teaching people anyone watching could be anything from a beginner to a really good rider. So you've got to make it apply to loads of people, and even if they're good or they're beginner, hopefully give everyone something that they can learn from. But at the beginning when I was making them, it's so difficult to keep it short as well. So I'll be like, right, I'll make a video on how to turn. Okay, so how to turn. Well, first, we need like their posture to be good. You need to do, this foot pedaling motion. Your knees have to be doing this. And like suddenly I was like, I'll be writing it down. I'm like, this is going to be like a 2-hour-long video of every movement in snowboarding just to tell someone how to turn. So you have to really make the videos so much more like specific, like, one like real specific movement or something like that. And it's a whole kind of different way of looking at it, which is, it's quite fun. And over this summer, I've really thought about it a lot more. And going into this winter, I've got loads of new ideas for videos, and ones that I think will hopefully work a bit better. Like editing it and everything, and you're fighting for people's attention as well the whole time. So I've kind of dived a bit into how the YouTube algorithm works, which is basically how YouTube will recommend my videos to a wider audience if they're performing well. And like the big thing is your retention rate in your videos. If people stay tuned in your videos, so it's not just you're trying to teach them something, but you've got to like get them in at the beginning, almost like shout at the camera. Or
Yeah, was it like the first 6 seconds or something?
Yeah, the beginning of the video is so important. So you got to, they call it like the hook. You got to like hook people in with, you know, with something that they're going to get, and then you've got to kind of then slowly feed them throughout the rest of the video until the end of the video they feel like, you know, yeah, they're satisfied. They've had a good meal of snowboarding knowledge, hopefully. But
I'm guessing those two personas as well. You've got like one specifically for just instructing, and then one specifically for like YouTube itself. Like I'm guessing they're slightly different. Of course, the YouTube one's going to probably be a lot more exaggerated, a lot more kind of loud in that way. How did you find that? Like trying to adapt to that kind of style of persona.
Yeah, it's difficult, and I'm better at it now for sure. But yeah, the beginning, the first videos I'd try and make. So my girlfriend would be the filmer, and like I'd be like, right, we're going to do this, and it would take me like 50 takes to get it right. Whereas now I pretty much script them now, so I know exactly what I'm going to say. Because well, like I'm talking now, you can't no. This, you know, in a 10-minute concise video, you've got to get like every word perfect. So I pretty much script them now, and essentially actually like storyboard the whole video. So I'll be like, right, I'll have my like little notebook in my pocket and be like, right, I need to say this, and then it's going to cut to a clip of this. So I need a clip of me carving, or you know, whatever, doing a down unweighted turn or riding moguls or something. Then it's going to cut back to me, but I want to be in a different scene so people don't get bored. So I'll explain the next bit on a chairlift, that kind of thing. But yeah, I definitely have a bit of a YouTube voice. I picked up a bit of a Kiwi twang when I was in New Zealand, and I think that kind of comes out a little bit when I'm on YouTube. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it's just trying to try different things as well. You make some videos, you're like that was an awesome video. This one's gonna have like millions of views, and it just like doesn't do anything. And then other videos just like explode. So like my most popular video on my channel was actually a video I was never even going to put up, and it's not even to do with like snowboard tuition or anything. It's simply like a headcam video of me riding this famous run in Alpes D'Huez called the Tunnel. It's like one of the steeper black runs in Europe. And I'd filmed the run, and it wasn't until like the ski resort closed and we were in lockdown, I was like, oh man, I can't make any more videos. So I was kind of going back for old footage. I was like, right, I'll just kind of put this up. And most of my videos were getting between sort of 5,000 to maybe 20,000 views. And then I put this one up, and like within a month it like hit 1 million views, and it was just like bonkers. And I didn't really kind of get it, but it was because I kind of opened up the channel to more than just people wanting to learn snowboarding. There's a big sort of side of YouTube where people just want to come along for the ride, this kind of vicarious nature of like living someone else's life almost for a minute. So obviously snowboard tours are great, but they're only really going to be good for people that, you know, want to improve their snowboarding. Whereas all the comments on this video are like people like, oh, I live in the Philippines, I've never seen snow, it's so nice to come along and see this ride. But I kind of sold it on YouTube as well as like this super steep black run in Europe. So it's really funny. That was when I first started getting trolled as well, because I mean it's like, yeah, it's a steep black piece, but you're not going to find any marked run that is like that extreme. You know, you're not going to be like needing your ice axes and rappelling into it or anything like that. It's a run that anyone can like take their 5-year-old son down if they want to. So it's obviously not that difficult. So then I started getting all these people like, man, you think you're so good, you're rubbish at snowboarding and stuff. And like, I laugh now, but at the beginning I was like, oh man, like everyone hates me and stuff like this. But some of them are genuinely hilarious. So like, I got this, I think about a month ago, this kid's like, I'm 12 and I'm way better than you. You suck.
I think you get that in the YouTube comment section. As you get used to it, you're like, now it's just a thing where, you have people shouting at you, and then you have the YouTube comment section, which is even worse. Yeah. I mean, on the whole, most people are really nice on it, actually. Like, not so much in that video, because that is just kind of like, so many people watch that. But in my tutorial videos and stuff like that, people, you know, say really nice things and whatnot. But I've got one guy who literally every video, he'll like be like, at
2 minutes and 24. So he's like picked out a frame. He's like, your posture is off here. Your hips should be in this position and your knees should be bent more like this. And he comes out with some words I don't even know what he's on about sometimes. He's like, you need to like bilaterally snowboard stronger. Like, what are you talking about? And like, I've had a few times where I've kind of engaged with him a bit. And but yeah, he's like, every video he's got a little bit of beef with me about something.
I feel like you should never engage with those. Or go like the angry snowboarder route where he just tells them to like fuck off or something.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it's such a like weird little like world. But yeah, I couldn't believe it when some of these videos started going really big. And but also, like, I can see from looking into how the channel performs and stuff, although that one video went big, it didn't really bring me much in the terms of like subscribers or things like that. Most of my subscribers to the channel come for like the tutorials and whatnot. So yeah, going into next winter, that's the plan, especially as there's not really going to be much lessons. Maybe later in the season, but when the resort opens, I'm just going to try and use this opportunity, this free time I have, to make as many videos as possible and see where I can get with the channel, because at the moment it's kind of like a like pocket money stage. It's quite cool, when you get like 30 quid a month or something, you're like, ooh, that's like free money. I mean, it's not free money if you look how much time and effort goes into the video, but you can start doing the maths as well. You're like, right, if I've got 16,000, look at this channel here, he's got like 500,000 subscribers. If I'm making this much, he's making like 10 times that easily. And then I don't know. Maybe it'll be interesting to see if it can grow much more and how much it grows. But yeah, now seems like the perfect time.
So in terms of that and the future then of the channel, just kind of a bit of a detail of what kind of videos that you're kind of looking at to kind of do. And just kind of maybe expanding on the stuff you've already done, I'm guessing.
So with the tutorials, I definitely need to do more beginner stuff, basically. So I've got like tutorials on down unweighted turns, one on like how to do Euro carves. And like for me, I thought that was like really cool, like, teach people how to Euro carve and stuff. But just with what people are searching for, you're not getting many good snowboarders going to YouTube for advice. You're getting people that are brand new to snowboarding, that want to know what they need to do on day one. They want to know what boots they should buy, like how they should feel. And yeah, so I've got to do, well, if I want to get more sort of views essentially and grow the channel more, I need to definitely do more of the beginner videos. So I'd like to do a kind of the whole progression from like, ideally like with a beginner or something, taking them through like the very first steps all the way to like maybe doing their first black run or something like that. And all these like beginner queries I get and things. I'm not going to do too much of the freestyle side of things. I think pretty much every other snowboard YouTuber has more of a freestyle focus. Whereas for me, like I kind of, after I broke my back and everything, that's when I started stepping away a bit more from freestyle anyway. And I'm much more into like the carving side of things now and the off-piste side and whatnot. So I'm going to try and make my channel
go more the all mountain route.
More of that focus, yeah, for sure. And then, I still do want to do the high-end tutorials because the people that do watch them generally appreciate them and stuff.
Yeah, they are. I have to admit, like, I've learned a few stuff from your videos. So, for example, the trying out that drill by just tightening your back foot more with your binding. But it works. I was like, this is cool.
Yeah, it's cool. And I want to do one on like, this is another difficult thing. It's difficult not to get like bogged down with the correct terminology. So obviously, I've kind of come through the BASI system, but being in New Zealand, I've got loads of like the Kiwi terminology as well. And it's almost just for YouTube. You just kind of like ignore that. And you kind of have to just like call a turn something that will make most sense to people. So I did a video on like down unweighted turns, and I've got Canadians telling me like, that's not a down unweighted turn, that's a retraction turn, or someone telling me that's a low cross under turn, in all these. And I'm like, you just kind of got to forget what each system calls it and explain what you're doing well and what it's going to achieve. But it's funny though, you do kind of watch it back, and in that video, for instance, I kind of noticed, I was like, well, actually, I am doing some retraction turns there, and well, okay, that one's more of a down unweighted turn. And yeah,
it doesn't really matter because most of your audience, you'll have those people that will comment on it, but it seems like most of the audience will watch it and go, okay, that makes sense, and they'll go off and do it. Because that whole subject about downweighted turns, cross-under and crossover turns, all that sort of area seems like a muddled area. Like, I didn't understand it when I first tried to learn some stuff. I was like, very confusing.
So that's one thing I've literally over this last sort of month when I've been in lockdown, I've been kind of real thinking about the best way to sort of explain retraction turns and down and weighted and cross under. And so that is a video I'll be doing. I think I can explain it pretty well now in a short video format that will make sense. But I have to wait for that one, see if it works. But just try everything as well, because like I watch not just snowboarding, but like anything that's kind of going big on YouTube to like try and steal ideas from there and stuff as well. Like, I've been watching this channel, these guys who like just like build these like weird houses like in the mud in the jungle recently and stuff.
Oh, those ones.
They're getting like millions and millions of views. And obviously that's not very similar to snowboarding, but they're like, it's basically just this time lapse of this guy over like 5 days, like digging a hole and turning it into this like underground swimming pool and underground villa and stuff. And like, that's nobody's hobby or anything, but like, he'll get like 25 million views, and I'm like, 25 million people have like found something nice about watching this. So I'm like, right, if the lifts aren't open and we've got loads of snow, maybe I'm going to make this like snowboard castle that I'll then ride through and stuff like this. So my mind's constantly going off on these tangents, and like, is this going to be like the next viral video that's going to make me millions, or is it potentially just going to be a flop?
It make like a snowboard kicker, but then just put like an artwork around it. So then you're just doing say a tame dog off the kicker with this beautiful, intricate snow castle that you made. And put property of a Malcolm
weird ideas. And then I've tried to set up a cycling channel in the summer. Basically, I was like, right, my YouTube channel within 2 months I'd hit like 1,000 subscribers. Like, right, let's do a cycling channel. And I made about like 40 videos, and it's still only on like 100 subscribers. So that one's kind of been binned. It's so difficult to know. You have all these ideas, but it's impossible to know if it's going to work and if it's not. And so so I definitely stick to tutorials because I know they do work, but also give myself a chance to explore other avenues and to try other things as well. And a bit of everything. And if it works, stick with that formula. If it doesn't, then on to the next thing, basically.
I think it's just like doing stuff that you love and in general, and then just see how it goes from there. That's sort of the experience I've heard from other YouTubers. But it seems like watching all your videos, you come across as a person that is, definitely interesting. You have got that character about which is, freaking awesome.
Hopefully, Not sure how I'm doing on this podcast. Probably waffling on too much.
That's the whole point of it.
Good, mate. Kind of that last question on the kind of YouTube segment. Have you kind of been noticed yet? Has anyone kind of popped up to you and been like, "You're Malcolm, aren't you? Can I have a picture with you or anything like that?"
I'm waiting for that. Not for my snowboarding. My cycling channel, someone did. Literally, like, I couldn't believe it. This guy was like, I've seen him. In Alpes D'Huez, it's like mega famous for road cycling. The Tour de France comes up here. So that's kind of what I do to stay fit in the summer. And I work in a bike shop over the summers. And I was cycling up to the top of this climb. And this guy was like coming up the climb the other way. And, we'd like pause at the top. I started chatting to him and he's like, "You're that guy from YouTube, aren't you?" I was like, yeah. He's like, so my YouTube channel for my snowboarding is just my name, Malcolm Moore. But I couldn't have that for my cycling channel. So the famous cycle climb around here is up to Alpes D'Huez. It's got these 21 hairpin bends, so I call myself 21 bends guy. This guy's like, "Yeah, you're from YouTube, you're 21 bends guy," and I was like, "No way, I've got like barely any subscribers on this channel. I've got like over 15,000 on my snowboard channel, and this is when I get recognized." So not yet. We'll see maybe this winter, but I've been using it to try and like, obviously like my snowboard instructors, we're not loaded. So I've just been emailing like every single company, trying to get them to sponsor me and stuff now with not had too much success yet. I think they want a few more viewers and whatnot. But then you get all these, you do get emails. I have like an email and it'll be like subject sponsorship, and I'm like, yes, right, Burton are going to sponsor me or Salomon are going to sponsor me, and it's all these like weird Kickstarter campaigns. So I had one the other day for these like 3D printed helmets, which was quite a cool idea, but just like these helmets looked like the nerdiest thing you've ever seen in your life. They had like a clear panel like through the top of them, so you can like see the 3D construction and stuff. And like the inside's like bright blue and there's like white bits, and it just looks like a bad Tron helmet or something. So
have you ever had any rotational people bindings Kickstarter campaigns like message you?
No, none of them yet.
Well, wait till that happens. See if was it like a quick step on Kickstarter. It looked like two French guys.
Or like a step-in style binding, but not the Burton ones or whatever.
No, it was like was it quick step? I don't know. It was an electronic rotational binding of two French guys decided to like make this big fat binding that you can like press a button and it'll turn towards like the nose of the snowboard, so you're skating like you would skate a skateboard. Stupid and horrible idea. I don't know how they get these ideas. But I wouldn't be surprised if any sort of one of those companies decided to like message you and be like, we'll sponsor you if you do a review on our rotational binding.
So kind of going back onto the idea of different types of resorts you've kind of been to, specifically more of the instructing side. So I kind of want to ask how different like the instructing and teaching styles is from like how you would have been taught by BASI, for example, to how you've kind of learned through like the New Zealand kind of results and their qualifications, like having chats with those instructors as well.
Yeah, so I mean, so obviously got my BASI level 2, and that's when I started then teaching in New Zealand, and that was when I was riding a lot with the sort of Kiwi trainers, and I think the Kiwi system is like really I still think it's a really, really good system, and you can actually like download the Kiwi manual for free. You just go on like the Snowboard Instructor New Zealand, SBI NZ, go on their website, you can download their manual, and I don't know if the BASI manual has had a redo, but I think definitely when I was doing my level 2 and my level 3, it was a very old BASI snowboarding manual, and the Kiwi manual was almost more of my kind of reference guide. I'd use that as my reference guide, but just change the lingo to BASI for the BASI exams. And I do think the Kiwi system was really, really good. I'm trying to explain how it's different, but it was just really sort of well thought out. And one thing I noticed with BASI was like you learn your level 2 snowboarding, you pass your level 2, and it's almost like a total different style of snowboarding for your level 3. Whereas the Kiwi system seemed to, although it had levels, it all kind of progressed in more natural ways. It's like almost, I'd say, your BASI level 2, you learn to ride a certain way that kind of looks right and things like that. You know, you look like you're snowboarding properly on top of your board. Then as soon as you get to your level 3, the shift kind of changes from what you're doing on top of your board to what your board is actually doing, to, you know, how your board is actually performing. You know, if you watch someone come down the slopes, which is how I've kind of changed as well. You know, I used to watch someone come down the slopes and I'd be like, okay, they need to come up a bit more here or down there, or push the knees out here, or be a bit more bent there. Whereas now, like, I generally look at, you know, what their board is doing. So if they're trying to carve, or are they leaving like a pencil thin line on the snow? At what point in the turn is there a skid? At what point is it good? You know, if they're riding steeps, you know, are they controlling their speed by their turn shape, or are they controlling it by scrubbing off and skidding here? And so that's kind of where I look first now, and then be like, right, okay, they've got that problem there. That is from, you know, probably something going on above the board. But it kind of almost flipped it on its head how I'd look at snowboarding from, you know, first looking at the upper body, and whereas now it's, look at the board performance. And, you know, if you get them achieving the right goal and they've got a funny arm or something, which, you know, I used to be like, no, your arm must be exactly here. If you're getting the desired board performance, that's like definitely the main thing. And I think that allows like style to come back into a lot more as well, which is one thing I found when I did my level 2. I was like, I'm becoming like a snowboard robot. Like I'm kind of losing any individuality in my riding, which is why, although like then doing my level 3 was like a bit of a shock to the system, I was quite glad that the focus wasn't on this like robotic stance or anything. It was on achieving the board performance and basically being allowed to have your own style. But yeah, like a lot of my training and everything and practicing for the level 3 came from the Kiwi system essentially, which is very similar, especially at the top levels, to the BASI system. It just follows, as I say, a slightly different path to get there.
I think the BASI system has changed a bit. Like it's still, as you said, that sort of robotic-ish nature. But the level 2s now have been sort of more free-flowing, and they don't really care about how you ride it, as long as you're doing the desired outcome that they want. They're like, cool, you're doing nice grippy turns on steeps, sweet. I mean, and as I say, it was already there by the time when I did my level 3 a few years ago. It was just when I originally did my level 2, like 11 years ago or something. Now it was just different. Like I wouldn't say it was bad at all, but I do. Yeah, it was definitely a shock when I did my level 3, but also like a good shock, if that makes sense. And like that week, my level 3 technical, like I learned so much from the trainers. It was a cool week actually. They had a few groups running, and I think they were training up new trainers. So basically, each group had like 3 trainers on them as well. So there was so much input to your riding, and I got so much from that. And I'd say kind of like scraped the pass, but then from there was like able to work on all the advice and everything I've been given. And like that next season after that year was like one of my best like years snowboarding, because I had all this new like knowledge I'd like unlocked, and became like so much more of a better rider, but was also able to know what I was doing so much more and how to improve it all. It was really cool.
What did you kind of mainly focus on in that season? Did you kind of really focus on just overall everything, or was there some specific types of kind of techniques and stuff you were kind of improving on over that season? Thus, kind of at the end of it, you were like, you know what, I can see how I've done 6 months ago from now, and how that's changed.
It wasn't like necessarily like a specific movement, like I need to get this one type of turn better or anything, but it was more like kind of become aware of like how well you could ride in certain conditions. Like for instance, you say you've got this like totally chopped up, cruddy, like steep bit next to the piste. I kind of had it in my head, like, you get down there in a controlled but maybe reasonably slowly way, and now all of a sudden I was like, no, like I can, if I want, I can absolutely charge this and stuff like that. So it almost became like, basically just kind of pushing myself to the limit on like different terrain. Like, get to a black slope and be like, right, I'm going to try and perfectly carve this. I'll be going like Mach 10 and I'll be like really struggling to hold my edge. But by finding that limit and by like wiping out, I find out what I need to work on. So it was kind of overriding, but just really pushing myself across all the terrain and trying to get like, which is kind of still what I'm trying to do now, and I think what most snowboarders are trying to do, but essentially trying to like perfect just like the turn. It's like the most basic part of snowboarding, but it's like the most, you go out snowboarding, you do like 1,000 turns in a day. It's like the most crucial part, and it's something you can probably always get that little bit better. And for me, it's kind of also the most satisfying part of it. It's so fun when you just like start flowing perfectly and carving through your turns, and and you get feedback from each one as well. So like I've always had quite a good heel edge, and like my toe edge is good, but sometimes I'm like, I just wish my toe edge was, sometimes I get my heel edge. It sounds so like nerdy and boring, but sometimes my heel edge, I'm like, right, that is perfect, and you try and get that for your toe edge, and you're like, it's good, and probably to anyone else it doesn't look like there's anything wrong with it, but I know there's still like work I can do on that, even if it's just like a slightly tiny movement, like tilting your shoulders to be slightly more perpendicular to the fall line, or, something like that, more perpendicular to the slope, or, like very small movements that don't look like they're doing much, but just in your own head, it's like making you a stronger rider. And I'd quite like as well in the future to get back to I mean, I guess the way to kind of test that, obviously, I feel if I'm doing better, but is to go back to doing like racing or something like that. So obviously, completing your level 4 part of that is doing the border cross racing. But when I did that, it was just kind of with the goal of getting the points I needed to pass. It was kind of stressful. It wasn't really enjoying the actual racing side of it so much. So I potentially quite like to sort of sign back up and start doing some border cross racing. I've always been super keen on the idea of trying to do some of the free ride events as well. So like enter some of the free ride world qualifiers, the kind of entry events that would eventually get you into the free ride world tour. And just looking at it from not like a BASI or an NZ standpoint or anything, but just like, all right, I must do this either the quickest or the best way to get down the mountain. I think the free ride world tour is really cool. Like it's not just speed, it's not just technique, it's creativity as well. And so obviously not going to be sending it down the Bec de Ross anytime soon in the final, but potentially some of the qualifying events could be quite cool for sure.
In terms of that border cross, then, have you kind of started to look at how different it is compared to how you would normally ride, and kind of just talk to us a bit more about border cross itself? Because of course myself, I don't really know a lot about border cross as it is, and probably some of the viewers as well listening to this.
So my first introduction, probably like a lot of BASI guys, to border cross is that it forms part of this component to getting your level 4, which is your top level, which you need to teach in France. So the skiers have their standardized tests, Euro test, but there's no there isn't a standardized test as such for snowboarding. So you have to get competition points. So you can do that in anything. It doesn't have to be border cross. It could be in freestyle, but basically most people do border cross because you're on more of a level playing field. If you're a good rider, you can be relatively good at border cross. I know that's a very simplistic way of looking at it, but compared to freestyle, even like the very amateur levels of freestyle is such a high standard that most of us will never even get close to. I mean, you've got riders who are completely unsponsored that do triple corks these days. So that just like shuts out that window of attaining points that way. So what all the BASI guys seem to do is compete in these border cross events. And it's kind of confusing. Like at the beginning, you're just messaging everyone else that's done it. Like, how do you do this? Because you have to get like a race license and everything. You have to get like signed off by a doctor. So I didn't tell my doctor that I've got a broken back. My doctor signed me off. And you have to sign up to your home nation. So you effectively kind of, you're kind of riding for Team GB essentially, or if you're from, if that's your home nation. And then you like look at this schedule of events and they're all categorized into like stars, I think, if I remember right. So like at your top end, you've got like your World Cup and your Olympics and stuff like that, but you can't just enter that, obviously. You need like points into those events. So you end up doing like the much lower level events. Like I think that's 4-star. I might have the other way around. It might be a 1-star or something. I'm sure someone will tell me I've got it wrong. But anyway, you do the lower level events. So I was going out to like Czech Republic, did one in Czech Republic. It's really cool. And it's just like this little hill. And they've got this really cool like border cross course set up. And you get there the night before and they're like, right, here's your bib number. Like, cool. And you just turn up the next morning and obviously there's a big language barrier and you don't really know what's going on. And you start seeing all these guys kind of practicing it. So it's this course, and a lot of you know this, but it's basically this like kind of bermed course, a bit like, when you're riding a mountain bike, you've got these berms. It's like this, and there's like a few jumps in there and rollers and things like that. And 4 guys set off all together, and that's how it's done. So I didn't even know how the ranking kind of worked in it, because there's loads of heats, obviously. So my very first one, I went into it and I think I came 3rd in the first one. And that's what I quickly then realized when going into other events. Basically, the top 2 riders from each event progress like up a level, where the bottom 2 riders from each event go like down a level. So in your first heat, if you finish top 2, you're going to finish the top 50%, even if you lose all of your next races. The lowest you can come is like 49%, basically. But if you finish third or fourth in your first event, you're then like in the lower tier and you're going to finish bottom half of the table, even if you win all your next races. So that's what actually happened to me in my first event. I came third in the first one, and then I won like all my next heats. And I was like, this is like, I've done amazing. I thought I'd done really well. And then there's another guy out there that I was doing it with, another basic guy at the same time. And he came like second in his first one, but then didn't do so good. But he, from that day, got a higher ranking and better points than me. And that's when we kind of figured this out. And that's when we kind of realized, like, how important this first race is. So it's cool. So if you knew if you did good in your first race, you can kind of relax a bit. But it's so important, like the start. I ended up basically like in the gym, like if you can imagine you're holding your hands on a gate and you've got to pull yourself back to get out of it. I ended up like going to the gym and just like doing that movement with like heavy weights and stuff to like get really strong air. Because if you can get out at the front, from my experience anyway, you just had much better chance of success because everyone's kind of jostling for position. And if you're in first place, you can just pick your line and go wherever you want. Whereas if you're at the back, you've got to kind of snake round people and not necessarily take the fastest line. So again, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's definitely more to it than just putting out of the gate. But just from the events I was doing anyway, that seemed like, if you could get out in first position, you had like a reasonably good chance of success. So yeah, when I was doing that season, I did a few races. They normally run over a weekend, so you get like a Saturday and Sunday of racing, which will count as 2 events. So it's more chances to get points as well, which is handy. And but yeah, all the events I was doing was kind of at the lowerish level for border cross. So it'd be quite cool to try some of the harder ones as well. But even at that lower level, though, you turn up to races and there's people there with their coaches. They ride to the race on a certain board, and then they've got a waxing stand and everything, and their coach is like waxing their board for them, like measuring the temperature of the snow. Right, you need this wax, and you're like, well, this is like pretty professional even at this level. So I did actually manage to get a border cross board, which definitely helped as well. So there was a guy. Was he? Is it Mavericks or something? James Streeter, I think. And he's another BASI guy that I think had like done the process a couple of years before me, and he had a border cross board, so I picked it up second hand off him. And yeah, that definitely made a difference. They've just got a much better base on. They're going to go a lot faster, and they're pretty stiff and just like rapid. But because they're so thin, one problem I've always had with snowboarding is like I've always had to have a wide board, which is like a real grumble of mine, because I literally feel like most snowboard brands that make these wide boards, half of them aren't even wide enough if your feet are anything bigger than like a size 10. So I've got like size 11 feet. So this is like a problem I've had through like my journey with snowboarding, basically getting toe drag all the time on everything. Which is why I'm pretty happy now. There's this kind of
volume shifted,
making all these like volume shifted boards. Yeah, for me they're just awesome. You got it's only a few like millimeters, so I kind of digressed a bit here, but your standard board's about like 255 millimeters at the waist, and then what would be called like a wide board might be like 260. So it's literally like 5 millimeters. But obviously, like the difference between someone who's got like size 11 feet to someone with size 9 feet is a lot more than 5 millimeters. So I was like always just like searching for brands. I remember like years ago, Rome, like the board they still do, like their wide version was actually like 265, and that was like one of the widest boards I could find. I had like a 161 length, and 265. I had to get it in that size to get it just about wide enough for me, because if your board's not wide enough and you're trying like Euro carves, like laying out in the snow and stuff, you're just going to boot out, and it's not your technique or anything. There's just nothing you can do. So now with like boards like the Party Platter, the Ride Warpig and stuff, their waist width is like, I think my Warpig's like 275 or something like that. It's like suddenly like an extra 1.5 centimeters bigger than that. And so you've got these really wide boards, which are awesome if you have big feet. But going back to border cross, which is where I was a minute ago, I think. My border cross board is like mega thin. So I had to like search out these like old school riser pads, what guys used to like ride with, particularly if they've got both feet turned out forward and stuff like that. It basically like lifts you up, like it's about like 2 centimeters of lift it gives you off the board. So it just means then when you roll the board into the snow, your feet are that bit further away, and like they feel quite weird riding with as well. And I got them from like some like old like hard boot rider in Germany. It was the only place I could like find him. He was like, I don't snowboard anymore. My knees are knackered, but yeah, you can have my riser plates, and they just like screw into the top of your snowboard. So I had them on this border cross board. So there's all these other people like at the beginning of the race with their coaches getting it waxed up and everything. I've got this like old border cross board with some like weird ancient like plastic German riser pads on top of it as well. But yeah, I've still got that board. It's good fun to go out on. It's just got a massive turning circle. Put it on its edge and you're like crossing over onto the next piece before you've made one turn.
And in terms of this, your kind of stance angles on border cross, is that kind of very similar how you ride, or is that more kind of the very forward stance?
So I changed it up a bit. Like I pretty much for years just rode 15-15 like all the time, particularly when you're teaching as well. It's nice to, obviously when you're teaching, you do a lot of stuff switch with your clients, the opposite stance to yourself. So I just always like rode 15-15 and kind of got away with that. And then I started kind of experimenting a little bit, just turning it out a little bit more and feeling how that it basically just lets you kind of drive your back knee through the turn a bit more and get a lot more power on like sort of calf turns towards the end of the turn and whatnot. And it is kind of there. I much prefer that style of riding now. And yes, with border cross, I think I didn't quite go forward. I think I had like -3 on the back foot or something. It was about as much as I like pulled it round. So it was kind of almost flat on the back and then turned out to 21 or something on the front. And then now with my sort of everyday snowboarding, I have my feet just very slightly turned in my natural stance. I think I have about 18 on the front and 12 on the back or something, which obviously you sacrifice a little bit when you switch, but I've kind of realized that these days, I can ride switch when I want to, but most of the time when I'm riding, I'm going to be in my regular stance. When I'm really pushing myself, I'm not going to switch it up too much. So, but yeah, there's so much you can change with everything. Like I definitely got stuck in the habit of, just sticking to one thing and be like, I will just make this stance work for anything. But part of it just out of laziness as well. I hate getting the screwdriver out, and I find every time I change my bindings, I seem to manage to thread one of the bolts, thread one of the screws. But yeah, it's definitely worth doing, changing it up, and it just gives you a different style of riding for sure. And like I change it now depending on like the camber of the board and things like that. I find like on cambered boards you can take narrower stances, and rocker boards you might want to be able to get your knees out a bit more to translate your weight across the entire edge of the board. And no, it's like, yeah, you just got to experiment and see what works for you.
Yeah. So kind of moving onto that, you said you're quite nerdy in terms of the technical ability of snowboarding. What do you kind of like about that, being that kind of theory or that kind of technical ability of snowboarding?
Oh, it's just kind of like rewarding as well to know you're progressing, and that's been one of the cool things about doing the YouTube. I mentioned there's some guy that goes through my clips and trolls me about that I've done something wrong at a certain point, but in some ways there's a bit of truth to that as well. Like I can literally watch myself riding and you see where I'm losing grip or where I'm not, and what I could change up, where I'm maybe wasting a bit of energy. So it's just, and as I said, like it's just kind of like search for getting the perfect turn, which isn't also something I think you'll get one day either. You won't be like, right, nailed it, that's snowboarding done, I've completed it. It's always this kind of progression. It's kind of rewarding figuring out what the next step is, and then rewarding when you get there, but then also knowing that you can keep searching as well. So yeah, it's just that satisfaction kind of thing.
Would you find it cool when you're like, you try something, but then someone from a different, say New Zealand, as you said, give you a different sort of input you could do, and then you're like, I'll try it and see if it works, and then you go and do it and you're like, bloody hell, that's actually pretty good.
And sometimes you just got to see someone do it to kind of believe it a bit as well, if that makes sense. Like for instance, where I worked in Treble Cone, there's this one like cool wall or something, it's called like Gun Barrel or something. It's basically a steep like half pipe shaped gully, and like everyone that rode it would say like 30 turns top to bottom. That's just how like everyone rode it, and I kind of thought that's how you ride it. That's the only way you can ride it. And there was this Swiss guy from Verbier called Antoine, and he like got a job one season, and he was just like another level rider above everyone else. And I remember watching him go down it. He made like 5 turns, but like carved it perfectly. There was nothing wrong with his riding. He wasn't out of control. And I was like, oh man, like there's just because you keep doing one thing the way doesn't mean you can't like do it better. So yeah.
Oh, great. And kind of moving on to the last and final question. What makes a good snowboarder? So what do you think makes a great snowboard instructor in your opinion?
Whoa. Yeah. There's a lot of elements. I mean, I guess like the fundamental thing is you've got to be able to improve someone's ability at the core of it. You know, if someone turns up, you've got to be able to make them better, make them have fun, have a good time. If it was on a BASI exam, so you've got to keep them safe as well, which is obviously important. But yeah, you've got to, I guess, be able to improve people, make them have fun and inspire them to carry on with it. So that's kind of the basics of what I guess your job title is. But someone that's really good at that is, I guess, someone who does all those things even better. And inspiring probably actually of those things is probably like the main thing. If you can take a lesson and someone's improved your riding, but they've kind of inspired you to to carry on with it, or to reach the next level, whatever that might be. I guess that's what probably makes like a really great instructor, which is what I kind of got essentially. I guess when I did my like level 3 exams, I was inspired to it's like, I've unlocked this another level of snowboarding. And although obviously they couldn't teach me all of it right then, I was then kind of aware of how to get at it basically. So I don't know. I mean, obviously, and not every instructor would fit every client as well, which is what's great. Everyone's got their own styles. Like what it's like after exams. Everyone's like bitching about the trainers and stuff like this. And I might find one guy great, and someone else is like, nah, man, I got nothing from him. I got nothing. Like, that guy needs to be fired. It's like, it's the worst experience. Not the worst. It's like the worst after the exam. You go around, you're like, so did you get it? Did you get it? And like the people that like didn't, you're like, you want to kind of side with them and be like, yeah, that trainer's awful, man. He doesn't know what he's saying. And then you chat to someone like, yeah, I got it. You're like, yeah, man, that trainer's great. He's the best. Like, he's so good. So like it's each instructor's different, I guess, and stick to the core principles of creating a fun time, inspiring people, making people better, but then bring your own style in as well. And that's when bring your own personality into it, and then that's what can make the difference, I guess. But I don't know if there's like a menu, a template, or whatever for the perfect instructor.
I don't think there is. There's like the closest you can do is just be sort of adaptable, but apart from that, you'll still, each for their own.
Yeah, I think you've got to. If it gets to the feeling that it's like just become a job for you, then I think you've probably already started to lose it. So, which is what happened to me, not with snowboarding, but with I got my ski level 1 as well. Definitely when I was in Canada. It was like, right, today you're doing 6 hours of teaching beginner kids ski lesson. I'm like, didn't have the passion for that. So and that's the thing as well. That's why we'll do it. You don't want it to feel like a job, Well, hopefully not anyway. Not me at least. You want it to be fun. You want to convey that to your guests. And
sounds good, Malcolm. And kind of what do you have kind of planned for your future as well? Actually, just for instructing and snowboarding in general, where do you kind of want to see yourself kind of go?
So like, location wise, I see myself definitely staying in France. Yeah, pretty much like probably sort of in Alpes D'Huez. It's somewhere that, I do kind of call my home now. I've done like back and forth. I've probably done about 8 or 9 winters here, but I've been here year round as well for like the last 3 years. So I stopped going to New Zealand. I did summers in a few other places. Like I went to Chamonix for a bit and stuff, and also Moliettes in the south of France for like the surf season. But I live here kind of year round now, which is something I definitely enjoy now. Like I used to love doing a season and be like, right, where's next? Whereas now, like, I definitely like being settled. So yeah, definitely an Alpes D'Huez. And so personally, yeah, just try and promote myself and push my teaching and see what could happen with the YouTube channel. And hopefully, like, Brexit and everything doesn't create too many hurdles for staying in Europe, for staying in France. Obviously, it's a little bit up in the air about whether qualifications can be recognised after Brexit, particularly for new instructors coming through, which is going to be absolutely gutting if they basically aren't recognised. It'd be a massive kick in the teeth, and a big kick in the teeth to BASI as well. Like if they can't offer that, that's one reason why I chose the BASI pathway, because I knew at the level 4 it would allow me to work in France as well. But yeah, no, just live here and see what happens. I'm definitely a lot more settled down here now. Got a dog and stuff. I'm getting married next year, so yeah. So well, I'm supposed to be, but we'll see. We'll see if I'm able to have a wedding.
Great. Do you want to kind of plug yourself in terms of where we can find you on YouTube and various other sites?
Yeah, go on then. So, well, hopefully now, if you just search my name, Malcolm Moore Snowboarding, you should find me on YouTube and everything. That took a while. If you typed in Malcolm Moore, it thought you wanted Macklemore and you wanted to listen to Thrift Shop. But hopefully I've got enough followers now that, yeah, just type in Malcolm Moore Snowboarding and you'll find my YouTube channel. But yeah, the snowboard school I work through is called Masterclass. So if you search Masterclass Snowboarding Alpes D'Huez, you'll find me as well. And then, if you get on either one of those, if you get on my instructor website or my YouTube, you'll find my Instagram and Facebook and everything like that. But yeah, my YouTube's the my main channel. I'm not so good on all the other social medias. We'll get there, but it's a bit much to do it all. But yeah, and yeah, if anyone's ever in Alpes D'Huez or over this way, does Alpes D'Huez across the road, I ride there a lot. Send me a message and we'll go riding together. As I say, there's no other snowboard instructors here, it's just me. So it's always good to ride with some other guys as well.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for being on, mate.
No, thank you guys. Yeah, it's been cool chatting to you. Perfect.